And welcome back to today's actual Hoodin from Divine Rebel, who asked the question, what a fight, Kid Goku versus Slenderman. A choose your own origin, supernatural, creepy monster for creepypasta versus the little Saiyan who could. Look, Kid Go. If we're gonna be fair, we'll use the strongest version of Kid Goku we can. I'm not gonna use GT. A, GT's not canon, and B, I feel like at that point now we're overpowering Goku for this fight. I think once you get into planet busting territory for the characters, Slenderman kind of becomes a little obsolete in terms of overall power. He's got some abilities they're not immediately prepared for, but yeah, I don't think that's fair. So we'll use Kid Goku after he defeats King Piccolo. This means we're dealing with a Kid Goku who has been doing martial arts for many, many years, who's a skilled fighter, still has his tail, and use it if he needs to. Can turn him into an Ozaru if he needs to. Can fly around in the Nimbus. Is capable of using the power pole to attack his enemies from a distance, a magical pole. And has access to the Kamehameha wave, as well as using after images, things along those lines. Slenderman, oh god. Slenderman is another one. I commented in my last video about how Alucard is kind of an elder statesman of the channel. I would not go so far as to say that Slenderman is an elder statesman, but Slenderman is definitely one who has shown up in here more times than I would care to admit. I have nothing against the creepypasta fandom or anything like that. It's not my take. I'm an SCP guy. I'm not a big creepypasta guy. And I get a lot of creepypasta suggestions. But Slenderman is basically a supernatural creature with nebulous defined characteristics and abilities. And that's why Slenderman is such a problematic character to use in verses, because it's just not what he actually is and what he actually does is both questions of because he's normally depicted as being a very tall, slender humanoid in a gray or black suit, red or black tie, and white shirt. His face is totally white, completely devoid of facial features. He has no hair, and he generally has normal-looking bare hands, though they tend to have longer, slimmer fingers. He's been depicted between the heights of 6 to 15 feet, but usually he's depicted around 6 to 7 feet, much taller than a normal person. Because of his inexact nature. I haven't seen that word in a while. And differences between accounts, no one has yet to determine what exactly the Slenderman is. Currently, there are two leading theories as to what Slenderman may be: the Tulpa theory and the quantum theory. Now, before we get into those, some of the theories are he's a demon, a ghost, a specter, an interdimensional being. The quantum theory is, and I believe that the Tulpa theory is the one I like the most. But the quantum theory, let's see if this page will freaking load. The quantum theory of the explanation of the apparent nature of the Slenderman, and it's compared to the core theory and the Tulpa theory. Basically, it's founded in modern quantum mechanics. The quantum theory is based around the idea that Slenderman is a physical substratum, not a thought form, whose existence and powers are part reliant on physics and understood science. Slender walking can be attributed to both of these theories. The explanation seeks a physical explanation, not a pseudoscientific explanation of Slenderman. Dear God Almighty. I'm not even going to try to get in here. The Copenhagen model of quantum mechanics, the interpretation of it. Okay, so essentially he's like some sort of quantum being, more or less. Okay, cool, great. Let's go with the Tulpa theory, which if it's the theory I think it is the one I enjoy a lot more, and I'm getting the Tulpa theory up here right now. I'm pretty sure is our thought forms, or beings created from the collective thoughts and beliefs of separate individuals or egregores, or by an individual alone, Tulpa. The concept of these thought forms are theoretical in nature and originate from Tibetan Buddhist mythology. In essence, when there are enough people out there that believe in something so strongly and so hard, it will the being into existence. That is essentially the Tulpa theory, the thought form theory. And that's the theory I've always liked the most. That's actually a kind of cool theory, which would make sense of why he's so unique and so different, and why it's so hard to interpret him, because other people interpret him differently. But in terms of his abilities, God. Okay, the abilities of Slenderman, and they range from a lot of things. So Slenderman has camouflage. He seems to be very skilled at camouflaging himself, usually hiding to hide and blending into like backgrounds, walls, trees, or forests are a big thing for him because he can just kind of meld with the forest and just stay in there. Mind control. The loose definition of mind control is utilized to assure many series across the mythos and perpetuate in blogs and video series. Exactly what this mind control entails is extremely loose and very poorly defined, although it's always inevitable logic when discussing proxies, and a term coined by Dark Harvest 100. As most series states, proxies work on behalf of Slenderman, who controls their thoughts and feelings, and through that, their actions. Proxies may still have partial free will and may or may not know they are being controlled. They're used to interact with other victims, set traps, so forth and so on. So he's got some mind control-esque powers. Impersonations. Rarely seen in the mythos, though, he can impersonate or mimic the voice and tone of a person in order to get a victim to come near him. One of the famous abilities is the tentacles or tendrils. Whether or not they're like organically part of his body or he's manifesting shadows is a little up for debate. But they're very powerful, can be in various shapes, sizes, flexibility, and sometimes they even have hands attached to them. He has selective visibility. One of the enduring traits of Slenderman is selective visibility. Slenderman potentially has the ability to choose who sees him and when. Yeah, that's a pretty skilled ability. He also apparently does have pyrokinetic abilities. Early mythos have a connection between Slenderman and fire. In the original mythos, almost all Slenderman's visitations are accompanied by fire, either after or during. He may be able to use pyrokinesis, which is the ability, we know what that is. Fire kills witnesses and destroys evidence. Photography of fires shows the Slenderman in or around the fire. In some cases, the fire is blue, or on rare occasions, green. It is not known why it changes color or why it occurs. He has telekinetic abilities. Mutilation. Is that really an ability? A common early trait of Slenderman was a body mutilation. A common procedure would be a discovery of missing person's bodies and pale. That's not an ability. That's just a trait. Like, okay, guys, if you're gonna, for the people who created like the Slenderman wiki and all that, great for you, absolutely. But understand what an ability is. Anyone can mutilate something. That's not an ability. An ability would be like how he mutilates them. Like he's able to summon blades and just slice them. That's an ability. Just mutilation is not an ability. Now, if he's skilled in mutilating individuals, like specific like dissection or something, that is a little different then. Then maybe you could kind of link that. But mutilation on its own, no, that's not an ability. Virokinesis. Oh, the sickness. Oh, that's right. He does have this weird ability called the sickness. Basically, in several series and AR, characters in contact with or some form of relationship with Slenderman may come under sickness. The sickness causes coughing, bleeding from the mouth, nose or eyes, vomiting, disorientation, potential blackouts, and potential fevers, which first appeared in the Tribe 12 and can now be seen in all these other stories that I'm not going to list off. The sickness is attributed to the Sigma radiation, which is soon to be released by Slenderman. This may make it a form of radiation poisoning. Well, that's something that I hadn't come to yet, and it's not listed on here. The fact that he releases radiation. In fact, I've never even known about that one. Sigma is a form of energy. Stupid ads. I hate these when this happens. A form of energy irradiation has been found to be present in each of every man cast member's blood, as well as a piece of cloth speculated to have come from Slenderman. So yeah, he literally emits a type of radiation that's unique to him. I've actually never known that. It's probably been updated in the lore since the last time I looked. So that's new. Then you have weather/day control. What the hell does that mean? Well, weather control, I know what that means, but to what degree? In many of the Slenderman games, the Slenderman often stalks his prey in weather or day conditions that cause fear, such as night, fog, rain, or storms. Also, in Slender, fog grows thicker when the player collects more pages, thus making it more possible for Slenderman that Slenderman has some degree of control over the weather. I'd buy it. The time of day seems to be rapidly going darker. He seems to be able to accelerate the time of day, more or less. Maybe keep it night longer, which gives him more avenues to sneak up and scare the dickens out of you. He's apparently a telepath. Possesses presence causes several negative effects on the minds of victims, including inability inhibiting memory loss while also adding memory, altering senses of perception of individual's environment, influencing a person's personality in a very negative way, such as causing a great deal of paranoia, nightmares, and hallucinations. It's believed that the presence of Slenderman directly causes negative effects on the mind of whom it manifests to. There is evidence that supports this belief. People who encounter Slenderman constantly become extremely paranoid of the next return, easily irritated or agitated, severely depressed, sometimes even suicidal. This method of negativity changing a person's personality could most likely be due to his mind control. It could also be a result of Slenderman's sickness and his mind control. And sickness majorly factors into these symptoms, but Slenderman's method of controlling one's mental health is still unexplained. In essence, he has the ability to kind of drive you insane. Pain reduction and prolonging death. It's believed that he can reduce the pain in a human, and it's mentioned that is because of Slenderman that he's still alive and able to type despite habit torture. He mentions that his stare is soothing like morphine. Some guy, anyway, named Johnny. So apparently he can prolong your life, more or less, or prolong and keep you from dying, at a much slower rate. And finally, Slender sense. Despite lacking facial features, he can sense when his victims are all near at all times. He can be noted in both Slender and Slender the Rival, as he never hesitates and always has his sight on the player, even when off screen. The ability has been given the nickname Slender Sense by the fans. Additionally, the trait is also inherited by the proxies. So yeah, apparently Slender. I've been downplaying Slenderman a little bit over the last couple of years. So they've amped him a bit with the news stories. So yeah, if Kid Goku fought Slenderman, he'd probably get his teeth kicked in. That's not to say it would be a stomp per se, though me saying teeth kicked in, it does make it sound like one. It's just that young Goku's level of power is so limited, and his mind is still developing, that him going up against Slenderman probably isn't good for him. He tries to, maybe he's flying on Nimbus, he's in a force, and he sees girls running, he sees the Slenderman chasing them, and he goes down and says, "Hey, what are you doing? Stop it!" And Slenderman just, walks away, and he's a little curious that this kid isn't scared of him or anything like that, but he just doesn't care. He's after these girls. He fires the tentacles after him, and even attacks Goku, but Goku's a power pull extend, just smacks Slenderman straight on the face. And this caused the tentacles to stop and the girls to run away. It's like, "Get out of here, I got him." Power pull extend, boom, kind of just boom, and he just goes into a tree and just looks up at Goku. Now, Slenderman is not infallible. At one point, when someone raised a bat to him, he got extremely angry. Now, this might be because someone was just standing up to him, or it's because even though he's tough, he can still be hurt. I just don't think there's anyone in the lore of creepypasta who's generally strong enough to do it, say for Zalgo. And I barely know anything about it. I've done a versus with Zalgo before, so that's why I know that name. But I know he probably looks at Goku and just gets angry, suddenly just firing, his tentacles again. Goku's actually surprisingly quick and he can't touch him. And he's like, Kamehameha! Just blasts that Slenderman, who is suddenly gone. That's everything. Slenderman is easily capable of either teleporting or blending with shadows and moving quickly. He's very capable of that. And fog starts to roll in. It starts the day seems to be getting darker, and Goku's just waiting for him. Slenderman just appears and grabs at Goku, who dodges initially. And Slenderman would eventually try to play on Goku's fears, personality, all that. And the problem is Goku really doesn't have anything he's afraid of. Granted, he's young, he's impressionable, he can still be agitated. And so he's getting sloppier the longer this goes on. The longer he's in Slenderman's presence, Goku is getting unraveled a little bit. Just like, But Slenderman's also still aware that the kid just blew away a bunch of force with an energy beam that came from his hands. I don't want to be hit by that. And Goku's like, Kamehameha! And again, he voids, and saying, I gotta pin him down. And then finally he gets hit by the tentacles, drops powerful. And Slenderman's kind of just pulling him into him. And Goku's like, got you! And then Slenderman realizes he did it. He formed it while I had him caught. Shit. And then gets blasted point blank. And Slenderman is like sizzling, and he's actually hurt. Because again, I just don't think we've seen anything really in the. And again, I don't follow much of it, but I follow a little bit of it now and then, just especially when this comes up. And there's not much that really hurts Slenderman, at least in his world, but obviously he's not in his world per se in this, or at least he's dealing with something that's not part of his world. That's a higher level of power than a lot of the things in his world. Raw power, anyway. But he's still standing, and then all of a sudden he just sets the whole place on fire because pyrokinesis. And Goku's now realizing he's coughing up, he's getting dizzy, he's starting to cough up blood. Like, what is this? And this would be the Sigma radiation taking effect. And yeah, it's just not looking good. Eventually the night comes, and let's give Goku every advantage we can here. There's a full moon out, and he sees it and turns into the ape and just goes on a rampage. Slenderman now is just completely confused of what's happening here. But he's using every tentacle he has. He's holding on to Goku. Goku's breaking off. He fires an energy blast and nearly kills Slenderman. Slenderman hides for a little bit. Then he basically just decides to he sets the whole place on fire again. Goku's now on fire. He's burning. And finally he starts to slice up Goku with his tentacles, and eventually ends up cutting the tail off, which turns him back into Goku. And Goku ultimately is defeated, killed, whatever Slenderman does with these hits. I think the problem ultimately is we don't have a clear definition of how durable Slenderman really is, and we don't truly know what level of power it would take to actually hurt him. What I could say, or kill him if he can die at all. But that said, I imagine Kid Goku does have the power to hurt him. A Kamehameha from him would be no joke, because he's stronger than I don't know. He wasn't stronger than Roshi when he blew up the moon. Roshi was in his buff form, which would be in the thousands. Goku was not that strong, but the point being, he was still strong enough to. I'm trying to think of what we've seen him use his Kamehameha to actually do in Dragon Ball. That's a good question. When have we seen him do in Dragon Ball? I mean, we know he could blow up a ring, probably blow up the arena and all that. Like, it's not a weak Kamehameha he has. Roshi even says, like, he meant in just a day he mastered something that took me 50 years to do. So yeah, it's kind of. I had no doubt that he could actually put up a fight against Slenderman. It's just the fact that this is Kid Goku, not mentally developed the same way that adult Goku is. Still a newbie in many ways, and very limited on his potential. Plus, his raw power alone is just on the low end of the scale. If this were Saiyan Vegeta particularly, but Saiyan Saga Goku, Vegeta's when he shows up to fight Vegeta and Nappa and beyond, I'd be very comfortable giving it to Goku, because at that point he can just blow up planets, no problem. But otherwise, yeah, I would probably say up until then, Goku probably is on the losing end of the fight. Arguably, even Goku just said when Raditz shows up might be strong enough to take on Slenderman. But again, it's a matter of two worlds colliding, and it's very difficult to understand how they really interact with each other. But ultimately, this is just my opinion. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? I'll go Slenderman, but there are avenues that Kid Goku could win, certainly. Anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.